Hello, welcome back to Movie Addicts Anonymous, MA for short. I'm David Briggs.
And I'm Alexis Briggs, and this is episode 3, and it is our bird-themed episode. Not, specifically, we're not going to talk about birds. That would be so boring. But we went and recently saw 2 movies with bird in the name. One of them being the Peanut Butter Falcon, and the other one being the Goldfinch. And Peanut Butter Falcon, we will be reviewing at the beginning here shortly, and then we will review Goldfinch at the very end, and then we'll talk about some of our favorite movies that either have birds in them or birds in the name, and some of our, maybe not so favorite movies with birds in them or birds in the name.
Yes, and just doing a little research, there's a lot of movies you forget.
So many!
That are bird themed, so we'll talk about, we're not going to talk about hundreds of movies with birds in the names. We'll give some honorable mentions other than the ones that
because we'll each do
about.
2 of our favorites and 2 of our, not so favorites. But there were, it was really hard for us to, pick, what our favorites were.
Especially the favorites. Not
That's
so favorites.
That's what shocked me
hard.
about it, I think, because, as I was looking it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many movies with birds in the name. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, so many of them are good.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Tons of movies that are up for Best Picture, a couple that have won.
You just don't even think, it seems like
movie.
A random idea. Birds. And then it's like, oh my god, there's so many.
So many. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Peanut Butter Falcon.
So, I realize now that, the Peanut Butter Falcon may or may not be a movie that, just played in major cities.
Yes, so this is one, after we give our ratings and everything, I don't even know
if you'll be able to see it in a theater
right now, but
stream it for sure.
Yes, and we'll tell you what we think at the end. But yeah, and I don't think it's going to be too long for you to stream it. I don't think it's one of those long winding.
Well, it wasn't in theaters for very long. That's kind of why we had to go quick.
We had to go. Yeah, we went.
It only aired for a week.
Yeah, it came out 3 or 4. It came out a week. It was came out 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then Westgate only got it last week.
Yeah, our theater only got it for 1 week, and then it was gone. So we were if we're gonna see it, we gotta go in this time frame. So anyway, Peanut Butter Falcon, the return of Shia LaBeouf.
Yes, LaBeouf is in there.
And Dakota Johnson. If you're a 50 Shades kind of person, Dakota Johnson's in it, and she's really good too. But I am a humongous Shia LaBeouf lover.
As am I, and I'm happy that he's figured his stuff out and he's back in the silver screen. It was great to see him back.
And it was good to see him doing something normal. Does that make sense? Because he made that one indie film where he was a thief, or him and his girlfriend were thieves and whatever, but he was still really strange. It was just a weird movie. He was weird still.
And it was good not to see him naked he was in the Nymphomaniacs 1 and 2, which I may or may not have seen. It is really weird.
So, it was really nice to see him back and to be in a role that, was normal for him. And he looks good, which is nice. It's not he looks like he's, strung out or, recovering from anything. So that's really good, too. Anyway, Peanut Butter Falcon. Dave.
Yes.
Go for it.
Yeah, so Peanut Butter Falcon is basically, it gives us basically you feel like it's in the South. It's in the South, kind of a fishing town, either in Louisiana or Florida.
Really
You're
small town.
deep in the bayou or something like that. And so Shia LaBeouf's character is someone who is kind of a crab fisherman, and he's kind of on borrowed times. And he is kind of a loner who
just has been making some shady choices.
Yeah, just kind of scraping by, which you come to find out, not giving anything away.
No, you're not giving anything away.
His brother,
who was close. I take it they were
close. He was close to his brother, and
like he passed away, and he hasn't been the same.
And he hasn't been the same. He hasn't had really any friends or anybody helping him.
It just seems like he kind of spiraled when he lost him. So like that gives you the roundabout of his character. He's just kind of like living his life day to day, like not really giving two poops about what happens. Like he's just kind of doing what he needs to do. So then further away in a retirement home, there is Dakota Johnson. She is like, she's not the director of the retirement home, but she's like one of the, I don't know if you call her like a CNA or like an employee, or she's like some sort of employee of this retirement home. And at this retirement home is a 22-year-old named Zach, and Zach is a person with Down syndrome. And he's in the retirement home because his parents had decided that they were too old to care for him anymore. So the state decided that that's where he was going to live.
Yep, and while he's in this retirement home, he kind of befriends
all the old people,
including Bruce Dern.
Who's his roommate.
If you don't know Bruce Dern, he was in Nebraska, and The Burbs, both.
Yeah, cast was great.
Yeah, great casting in this movie. So what Zach is really into is he's really into wrestling, especially this guy named Saltwater Redneck.
Like the WWE, like think like John Cena and like The Rock.
Yeah, fake wrestling. He's super big into it, and he has this one video that he makes Bruce Dern's character watch all the time. He's super into it.
But it's from like 15 years ago.
But he doesn't
get that concept.
So there's a wrestling camp, like a few hours away. He's trying to get in.
He's trying to
go, and Dakota Johnson's like, "No, you can't. You can't go.
You gotta stay here.
You gotta stay here."
Yada
and
yada.
He feels he doesn't belong there. He belongs at this
because he's young. He's not old. He says he's young. He doesn't need to be in the old folks' home.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Mm-hmm. And he's kind of he's pretty sly and everything, and it was funny. Bruce Dern's character helps him out, gets him out of.
He escapes from the retirement home
in just his underwear, running around, and it's at night that he does this, and then he kind of ends up at the docks where
he hops into a random boat and decides like, I'm gonna take a nap, I'm gonna hide here, I'm tired. And then, like, meanwhile, Shia LaBeouf's character, Tyler,
is in some trouble, steals a boat.
Yeah, well, he's been stealing, like, crab catching equipment from, like, another fisherman. And this guy, like, comes and threatens him and is like, do it again, and, like, I'll have to make an example out of you. And so then he gets all, like, pissed and, like, sets this guy's stuff on fire. So then he hops in his boat, drives away. His boat happens to be the boat that Zach has decided to nap in. So they end up with each other. And I don't want to give, like, a whole bunch away. Like, by talking about the beginning, it's not giving anything away, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, nothing. But, like, they become unlikely friends. And all the meanwhile, like, Dakota Johnson is on a mission to find Zach because he ran away.
And then these two guys are trying to find him because he stole his...
they're chasing after Shia LaBeouf because he lit their stuff on fire. Yeah. And it's just, like, basically, Shia LaBeouf has a line in there when he finds out that Zach is escaped from the old folks' home. He says, 2 fugitives on the lam. And basically, that's what they are, like, the whole time. And, like, craziness ensues. And it is hilarious.
So funny.
And, like, totally, like, unexpected and, like...
Yeah, there's moments in there you don't expect. It's so funny. 2 unlikely buddies, and... Which was really cool about Shia LaBeouf's character is that he never saw Zach as someone that
with a disability.
And Zach was funny. He's like, I'm a man with Down syndrome.
Yeah, he's like, I have to tell you a secret. I am a person with Down syndrome. And Shia LaBeouf says, okay, I don't care.
And and that's the thing. He treats him
he
like
didn't
another
care
dude.
that he had Down syndrome. He cared that he was like a good person, not that. Yeah.
Which I think
is totally the way to do it.
Yeah.
Totally. But anyway, so David, because
Yes.
I don't want to give any more away about
No.
it because it was. I want you guys to go see it. So what would you rank it?
R all the way. It's a must see. Try and find it. It's totally worth your time. It's not a real long movie. The only thing it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it is a fantastic movie. It has this great indie feel to it. I think it should be a dark horse for being up for Best Picture. It won't
Shia
be.
LaBeouf should be up for something.
It won't be, but it should. It really, really should. It's fantastic. Shia LaBeouf should be up for something. Zach was
Should be,
won't be.
yeah, exactly.
But like it's so worth it. It's so worth your time. You should go.
Yeah, if you're like a fan of like kind of like quirky indie like adventure
I love it, yeah.
comedies, like totally up your alley. Like worth the see.
It's for anybody.
Yeah, but like if you're a particular fan of that kind of movie, then you're gonna love it.
Yeah. And if you're into
go.
dry humor, I mean, it kind of gives that Little Miss Sunshine kind of vibe.
If you're someone who has ever worked with anybody in any capacity with some kind of disability, this is gonna be like so funny to you. For those of you that don't know, David and I moved down to Phoenix because I got a job teaching self-contained special ed. So I actually had a student with Down syndrome in my classroom. And it was just so funny to watch this movie and look at David, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, that is what this kid used to do in my room. Like, that's so funny. So if you're someone that has any interactions with people with disabilities, this is going to be heartwarming for you.
Yeah, in which we both, I have a cousin with Down syndrome. She's worked with many in the past, so it's just, this movie's just a breath of fresh air. It's
really
light.
is.
It's, it's not controversial at all.
Not at
it's
all.
just a great movie.
I would also say it's an R.
Oh,
for me. Like, all the way. We got out of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Like,
there's some just great lines. Just, he does something silly. He's going to dance about it.
They break up the humor and, like, the drama by, like, I don't know. It just didn't feel too like it was trying to be funny and, like, make fun of him.
No.
But it didn't feel like it was, like, too serious about the fact that this was a person with Down syndrome. You know what I mean? Like,
right in the middle,
rode that perfect line.
It's phenomenal, and so Peanut Butter Falcon.
R, go.
R, all the way. Okay.
Go see it now.
Yes.
Okay, Dave. On to the topic. Bird movies. One of your faves. Go.
I mean, other than the one we just saw, which is a great one. An all-time classic for me, and we both don't know what each other's going to pick. I think you know.
I'm sure you know one of mine for sure, but go ahead.
Yes. I am doing the super classic One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
That is a super classic. Continue.
Super classic. It's, if you don't know, it's Jack Wow, it's in golf here, David. Jack Nicholson is the star, and he plays someone who acts crazy so he can avoid prison. He's a prisoner who acts crazy so he doesn't have to go to jail. So he pleads insanity. He goes into a psych ward, which it has a loaded cast with actors that includes Danny DeVito, Christopher Lloyd, Brad Dourif, who is the voice of Chucky. Scatman Crothers is in it.
Dang, okay.
And then the lady, I think one of the more underrated villains in movie history is Nurse Ratched. I mean, how you think that she's just going to lighten up, but she never does, and she's just very cruel. And this is another one. I mean, another movie that is funny and light, and it can be dark too. There's sad moments in it. This is one of those movies, very, very old, but I don't think our generation, a lot of people have seen it, which is sad because I think it's in my top 10 for sure.
So, with that being said, if we give like some spoilers, like it's an old movie. Like, get over it. Mm-hmm. Continue.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes is the scene with Chief and how Jack Nicholson is just trying to help these guys in a way that we were talking with Shia LaBeouf. He's trying to help these people. He's trying to help Chief dunk a basketball. He's helping these guys, Danny DeVito included, to play cards. He sneaks him out one day to go on a boat and to party on a boat. There's a lot of great scenes in it. And you kind of figure out that maybe Jack Nicholson all along really his character needed to be in there because he did have emotional issues. He might have been bipolar. Like he needed help that maybe a prison couldn't do. And that movie, it's.
So what would you say it is for you?
It's an R all the way. All the way. For sure. Now what is your...
Okay. So, like we said, there's a lot of bird movies, and particularly there's like a lot of bird like children's and like family movies. I
saw that,
which was like shocking to me. One, I hate birds. Like, I can't stand birds. They terrify me. Not sure what it is. Just don't like them. So while I was looking, I was like, oh, okay, this might be hard for me. I don't like birds. But as I was looking, I was like, wait a second. I do like a lot of these movies. And my two very favorite movies, this is going to kind of turn into like a 90s movie thing for me, because both of these are movies that I used to be obsessed with as a child.
I'm keeping mine more old.
My favorite movie,
yes,
two of my favorite movies, but the first one I'm going to start with was the 1995 classic, The Pebble and the Penguin.
I don't even really remember.
Oh, I love this movie. Rotten Tomatoes only gave it an 11%. I'm staring at it right now, and that makes me very angry. But,
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But then Google gives it 87.
Yeah, so Rotten Tomatoes can suck it, because that's driving me bananas. But anyway, so it has like Martin Short and Tim Curry and...
Oh, we don't like Tim Curry on this podcast.
James Belushi's in it
love
too.
Jim Curry.
So like it's got a really good cast. But basically it's like, I don't know how many of you know about penguins, like know like random facts about penguins, but like there's a type of penguin that when they are like proposing or like asking another penguin to be their mate, they give them a pebble like we would like a ring. So in this movie, this boy penguin is like gearing up to give this girl penguin a pebble, and he's like, oh, she's the one, I love her, blah, blah, blah. Well, when he's on his way to her, he gets stuck in a like fishing net and gets pulled onto a boat, and he meets other penguins that they've accidentally fished up, and like he ends up at a zoo, and like he is trying to get back to her, and like the whole thing is like him and these random like other breed of penguins like all teaming up to get back to where they'd come from. And I just remember like being obsessed with this movie as a child. Like it was one that I would go to like Blockbuster and make my mom rent for me like 8 billion times in a row. Like I'm sure the Blockbuster people were like, oh, that one again? Cool. Like, but it's a total R for me. Total amazing bird movie. It's right on up there as one of my very favorite 90s children's movies. Like, 90s kids movies were so iconic. Like, there are so... And also, like, kind of horrible at the same time. Like, one of David and his brother Ben's favorite kids movies was, like, what was it? The Indian in the Cupboard?
Indian in the Cupboard.
Like, that's horrible.
90s had some...
So, like, they're iconic, but they're also, like, that would never fly today. Anyway, so total R for me. David, second one.
Second one for me is, I mean, how can you have a birds podcast and not have the birds? I mean
you
one
can't.
of Alfred Hitchcock's all-time greatest. I mean, if you know me, you know I love Hitchcock.
Yeah,
I mean,
David has a mad love.
It's cliche to say, but I think Hitchcock's my favorite director of all time. I mean, there's so many that I like, but I mean, he's kind of the gold standard, and I mean, The Birds is one of his most iconic, and so basically, The Birds, if you don't know, it starts in a bird shop in San Francisco, and the actress is Tiffy. Oh, what's her name again? Tippi Hedren. Sorry, Tippi Hedren is our lead actress, and she is going to Bodega Bay, and while she gets there, there's just, I mean, just to say, there's birds that just start picking up steam.
Wasn't Tippi one of like the scream queens of the time? Too?
Oh yeah, one of Hitchcock's favorite, and what I'm going to talk about in this is just how the lengths Alfred Hitchcock went with Tippi to really get her going. Yeah. So there's iconic scenes where the birds attack. My all-time favorite scene in that movie is the school scene, and so like she is outside the school, and there's some crows and various birds just kind of lining up, and you can hear the school kids from inside singing, and while the picture is moving around, they hit back to the little bench area where the birds are at, and they keep lining up, and then it's just this huge pile of birds, and next thing you know, like, the kids come out, and then all these birds start going and attacking, and what you come to find out is Hitchcock used real birds in that movie.
No, that would stress me out.
Yeah.
I would never
and
be able to do that.
And
oh my gosh.
Like the telephone pole scene. I mean, she actually got like glass shards in her
that
hand.
Is
and yeah.
actually.
So like basically Hitchcock really put her through the ringer, and the real birds, he'd scream at her. Like, it's known that he did that with a lot of the women in his movies, like the Psycho scene. He actually had the knife in the shower scene, and he just would take them to a whole new level. Another crazy scene in that movie is when she sees the dead guy in the house and the birds around him, and they like pecked his eyeballs out. And
that's like a real fear I have.
That was another one. So like, and then by the end of the movie, there's kind of a fan theory that she brought the birds from South Dakota. Not South Dakota, San Francisco. She brought the birds. Like, she was in that bird shop.
With her,
yeah, like she kind of brought this
upon herself,
this aura that when she got to the bay, the birds came with, like her aura. So, and yeah, and that I will give this movie also an R for sure.
So my second one, okay, this is my very favorite children's movie, and if you're gonna, like, if people are gonna disagree with me, you can fight me on this, because I am ready to throw fists. So my very favorite ever, Rock-a-Doodle. It is from 91, and my mom had to record this, like in the VCR. Remember, like, VCR recordings? Yep. Yeah, I had this on a VCR recording, and I had to, like, fast forward through the commercials. Because I watched this so frequently, she thought, screw it, we're going to record it. So, and for any of you that really know me, like, I'm a humongous Elvis Presley fan. Humongous. And if you haven't seen this movie, basically, it's about so it starts out in this, like, farmhouse. And they're having a terrible storm, like a tornado's coming, the house is flooding, the dad and the older brother are outside trying to keep, like, the water away by putting sandbags up, and the mom is trying to keep the little brother, like, calm by telling him a story and, you know, getting him to go to sleep. But, you know, like all children in stressful situations, he has a nightmare, which is totally fine. Like, average thing to do. So he starts dreaming about the animals on their farm, and they all become like cartoon, and it was really kind of cool because like the idea of like people being intermixed with animals or not animals, but like with animation at the time was like kind of like something that was like becoming pretty popular, like with like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and like things like that. Anyway, he starts dreaming that like all of his farm animals become cartoons and they can talk to him, and they talk about how the rooster on their farm, who usually wakes up the sun in the morning by, crowing at it, has become famous. And he now lives in the city, so that's why they're having this terrible storm, because he can't crow to get the sun to come up because he's gone. So they go to the city to go retrieve him and say, like, you have to come back to the farm. Like, we need you. We're in trouble. And they get there and they find that, like, it's kind of controversial for children now that I'm, like, thinking about it. Because they get there. He's super famous, but he also is, like, struggling. He's, like, drunk for part of the movie.
That's right.
And now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wow, this is kind of dark. But, like, he's basically Elvis Presley. Like, he dresses like Elvis Presley, and he has that, like, voice like Elvis Presley. And, like, basically, and then there's, like, his manager is, like, his manager is a fox.
Does he get fat like Elvis? I don't remember.
Stop with the fat Elvis comments. Like, I hate that.
That was my goal. My goal in Vegas is to find a fat Elvis.
They were everywhere, too. I did not take a picture. Anyway, so, they find him, and, he's just kind of, like, gone. Like, he's super, super, super famous, but he's not the same person that he was when he lived on the farm, and anyway, they get him to go back, and he crows, and he brings his girlfriend from the city with him, and they're happy ever after. But anyway, I love that movie. Total, utter classic for me.
What I love about some children movies, like, I like, with my horror kind of obsession, I root for the bad guys, and they have a great one, the owl in that.
Yeah, so, like, but the owls, obviously, like, that live on the farm, love that he's not there because it's dark all the time, so they can be out all the time. So, like, the whole time the owls are trying to stop the farm animals from, like, getting to, his name's Chanticleer. They're trying to stop the farm animals from getting to Chanticleer and getting to come back because, like, then they can't be out all the time. And the owl, like, the head scary owl or whatever, is a very good villain. Like, like, very good.
He has some good
there's some good. There's great music in that movie. The animation's really fun and bright, and then with the contrast of like the real life part of it, like with the little boy and his family being so dark and heavy because of the storm, and like the seriousness that like when you get to the city part with the animals, it's like really happy and upbeat, and it's just kind of like a nice contrast. Total R for me. My very favorite movie as a child, like very favorite. Like y'all can call my mom if you want the truth, because she will be like, oh my god, yeah. She probably remembers some of the lines because she's seen it so many times. So, so Dave, down to your least favorite of the Bird movies.
Yes, least favorite, extremely entertaining, but least favorite. One of my all-time favorite crappy movie marathon recipient that we watched is, there's actually two movies, and I'll just... Are
you going to talk about them both?
I'm just going to blend it.
Okay.
I'm just doing my least favorite. I'm going to just do them 2 for 1. I'll just do a 2 for 1, do it all in one. Birdemic. And it's, the first one's Birdemic Shock and Terror. And basically what it is birds go crazy. You have crazy birds, and these birds, they're not even remotely look like birds. The CGI is all over the place. The sound is all over the place. It sounds like there's no soundboard. They're just like talking in a bathroom, and then they
like
just voice over it while these people are talking throughout the movie. These aren't actors. Like, this movie, I haven't went real in depth, like, researching it, but they cannot be serious. Like, if the second one, I looked at the second one, and they made a second one because the first one was so popular for being so crappy that they made a second one. Yeah,
classics.
So they just went with it, and then they just goofed it up. But I mean, the second one wasn't as fun as the first. Both just terrible. They're the CGI birds. They like are in this weird pack. It's just so ridiculous that the main characters in it, which you don't need to know much about, they try to warm off these birds with like AK-47s. They use any and every form of gun, it seems like, throughout these two movies. And it's so funny, you see like the red and yellow sparks from the gun. It's like 90s video game CGI. It's so bad. It's so bad.
With like the sharp edges.
And of course you have the corny one or two sex scenes in both movies.
What is a terrible cult movie without a sex scene?
I just love the stops. It's like, oh, line, and then they just like talk. It's just ridiculous. It's so bad, and it has
so bad,
one of my.
It's funny,
It's I totally recommend you watch this. I think I will put the trailer of the first one on our website so you guys can at least see the trailer and be like, I mean, when I saw that trailer, I'm like, I'm in. We need to put this in the next crappy movie marathon. Let's go. And the one, and will you come to find out without giving anything? I mean,
you can spoil it.
I'm gonna spoil it. The birds has something to deal with global warming.
Well, that's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah.
So, in the sense of like, if you're like a movie critic and you're like serious about this.
No, never. You never watch this.
Yeah, so this would be like a never go. Not even.
If you're a crappy movie marathon.
If you're someone who likes crappy movies, what is this?
Oh, it's an R. So like, it is terrible. Like, it is probably the most entertaining crappy movie. I mean,
one of them.
It realms with. It's in the realm of Cracker Jack, of The Room, Trolls 2, just to name a few of my favorites.
Okay, so like I said, it was really hard for me to pick like a one I didn't like with birds, like a crappy bird movie, one that I wasn't a fan of. So I mean, I still am okay with this movie. It's not one that I'm like, this movie sucks, never go see it. It's just one that like I'm like meh about. Mm-hmm. So it's Valiant. It's a kids movie from 2005, and you're gonna just. David's looking at me with really like.
I don't know what this is, but.
So here's Ewan McGregor's in it. Tim Curry's in it. Ricky Gervais is in it.
You and your Tim Curry.
I love him. So basically, Ewan McGregor is this pigeon named Valiant, and there's like a war going on, right? Like, I think it's supposed to be like World War II, but they don't officially ever say that. I just think that's what it's supposed to be, and they're using carrier pigeons, like to carry messages, right? Because like you can't have the other side like getting a hold of it like electronically or physically, or so they're sending carrier pigeons. So Valiant basically decides like. He lives in the pigeon world, and like pigeons are signing up for the war efforts to be carrier pigeons. So he decides like, I'm gonna be a carrier pigeon, but he's kind of like a little like dinky pigeon, like a little guy, and he's kind of like weak and meh. And so like they're all like, oh, you're gonna be a carrier pigeon. Oh, you can't do that. Like, anyway, so he goes to training, blah blah blah. So then they send him on like a really dangerous assignment, and this is why I think it's World War II, even though they never actually say this, because Tim Curry plays a German pigeon, like, and he's like the bad guy. So I'm thinking it's definitely World War II, but they never actually like come forth. You just hear that it's a war.
He's a pigeon with a little black mustache in the middle, right?
I don't think he's supposed to be Hitler, but he's definitely a German. So, like, basically he gets, like, people are like, oh, you can't do it. And he gets sent on, like, the most dangerous of all the missions. And, I mean, it's an okay kids movie. It's kind of heavy with, like, the concept. Like, kids movie, I mean, kids need to know about war and whatever too, but like I don't think that necessarily like the biggest and one of the most violent wars of the like history thus far needs to be covered in a kids movie that badly. So I mean, it's just kind of one that it's like,
that synopsis
could have done without it. Like, so I mean, it's an okay movie. Like if you can get past, like it's got a good cast, which shocks me that it's not that great. But it's definitely not an R. I would say it's definitely like a G, see at your own risk kind of a thing. Like, you're either going to think it's cute and you're like, oh, it's precious, or you're going to be like, this was the dumbest movie I've ever wasted time watching. So it's either one for you. Otherwise, like, that was really the only one that I was like, oh, God, yeah, I remember that. That wasn't very good. Otherwise, like, some honorable mentions for me. I would say that Happy Feet. I loved Happy Feet. Happy Feet is up there. What else is up there? David, you'd mentioned that Black Swan was up there for you.
Black Swan is in there. The Birdman. I love Michael Keaton. I mean, I could have an episode of just my favorite Michael Keaton movies. Which maybe, I don't know. We never know. But
David and I enjoy Angry Birds. They're cute.
The second one
was surprisingly good. I liked Rio. That's up there for me. Otherwise, like,
Birdcage.
The Big Year, too. That's a good one, too.
Birdcage.
Birdcage is cute, yeah. Chicken Little, yeah.
I think we're on the same side.
We totally are. And, I mean, there's tons of bird movies that are just, like, total, like, Hoot. Hoot's another one.
There's a movie with Goldie Hawn and Mel Gibson. And it looks like Mel Gibson has a ponytail in this. That's weird.
Oh, okay. I see it too.
Misery is not a bird movie, but okay.
But yeah, there's like tons of really cute little bird movies. So like, plus like also like some like serious bird movies, like not just like cute ones, I guess. But so there was a tough little rack of movies to choose from.
Yeah, this was a fun. Yeah, This was a fun episode looking for that.
Yeah, it was. It was different. So last night, we went and saw...
You're not crying right
now. The Goldfinch. And also one that I'm not really sure if you're going to be able to see for very long in a lot of theaters. So, like, just keep in mind that this may have to be, like, one that you just keep an eye out for. But essentially... The Goldfinch is about a young boy who goes to a museum with his mother, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City with his mom. They split up for a minute to go look at two different paintings, and then somebody bombs the museum, and the boy loses his mother. And you're kind of traveling with this young boy, and you find out, like, his dad left his family, so he doesn't have anyone to go to. So he goes to, like, a random friend's house, and they're keeping care of him.
The mother is Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman. And then, but then his dad comes back, and his dad takes him, and there's all kinds of...
Dad is Luke Wilson.
And dad is a loser, and so, like, all kinds of stuff happens. And dad's married to...
Sarah Paulson.
Yeah, Sarah Paulson's his stepmom. And
she plays a role I've never seen her kind of play.
No, but she was good at it. Like,
well, Sarah Paulson is just a gem.
She could be good at anything. You could be like, you're going to play a statue, and that would be the greatest statue in the whole movie. You'd be like, look at that statue. But, so she's in it, and it kind of, like, goes back and forth from, like, it's almost like it's taking place, like... It's like he's flashbacking. It's like he's an adult, and he's remembering his childhood in these chunks as, like, things happen in his adult life. So, like, you know, he befriends a little girl who also lost an adult in the bombing, and, like, he makes a friend when he lives with his dad, who is Finn... What's his last name? It's like Wolf... something.
Yes, something like that.
But he's from Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah, Finn.
It's like Wolf something.
Yeah.
But, Anyway, he's in the movie, and he has a Slovakian accent, which is wild.
And he was incredible.
Yeah, he was really good in the movie. But he becomes, like, his best friend, and then, like, some more drama ensues. I don't want to tell you guys because, like...
You figure out for yourself if you think Boris is good or bad without giving anything away.
Right, yeah. So, anyway. Then he ends up back in New York City where he's from, and he ends up living with this man who owns an antique store.
Yep.
And
name is Hobby. There is some really interesting names that, like, I like afterwards. I'm like, what were some of those names? Like Pippa and Hobby and Boris and.
Well, Boris is Slovakian,
yes,
so that makes sense.
I don't want to be racist right now, but yeah, no, there's some there's some interesting names in there. Yep.
But yeah, so like, and it just kind of like the way that it flashbacked was like really awesome. Like I really liked how like you went through a stint of his adult life. And then it, like, connected things that were going on, like, basically saying, like, this is why this is now happening, because this is what happened when he was a kid.
Instead of, like, having you to just go through all the young stuff and then go right to the old stuff and be like, oh, yeah, wasn't that had to deal with this? And they
like, directly linked them.
They link it, which was really nice.
It was really cool. Essentially, I started bawling like 10 minutes into the movie starting and did not stop until the movie ended.
This is a 2.5-hour movie, and she was,
I was a mess, like, the entire time.
I was just, like, looking, and I'm like...
He kept checking on me and asking if I was okay.
I was like, oh my goodness.
This movie is...
Very intense.
When we got out of the movie, he said, what did you think? I said, easily one of the saddest movies I have ever seen.
But then we were both almost brought to tears for another reason, because when we left the theater, there was just a barrage.
So yeah,
the Hustlers movie came out the same weekend, came out yesterday too.
And our theaters were next to each other.
And we both got out at the same time. And it was just a sea of women that came out.
Yeah, a whole bunch of women. Tons of women standing outside this Hustlers theater, and they're all like talking about the movie, and I was like, oh my gosh, did you see how many women were standing there? Like, it was outrageous.
And before we went, before we our movie started, we saw that the Hustlers. I'm like, I wonder how busy that'll be, because no one's in our theater right now.
Yeah,
and it was like a packed house, so it was just
it was like probably women. All women too.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there was a sad husband or boyfriend that got drug along. But
yeah,
anyway.
I'm sorry for you guys. I don't think we're going to review Hustlers.
No.
I don't think we're going to movie.
But essentially, the reason for the name of the Goldfinch was that was the painting that he was looking at when the bomb went off in the museum. And then when he met a man after the bombing. A man was looking for Pippa, who's the young girl that this boy befriends. Mm-hmm. And he was telling him, I think what ended up happening was he was just a young boy. He's 10, maybe 12. Yep. And he's in there and a bomb just went off and this man has hit his head hard. So this man is kind of delusional, knowing that he needs to find this girl that he came with. Mm-hmm. But besides that, nothing that he said, really made any sense.
No.
And, and he kept telling him to take the painting. Mm-hmm. And, of course, this 10-year-old boy is going to take it. Of course. But, the painting is, a huge thing. And, this poor kid goes through so much in his lifetime that you're just what else could possibly happen to this child?
I know it's incredible everything he goes through.
Whoever that child actor is that plays
Theo, his name is Oaks. I looked that up. Oaks.
Because holy crap.
Incredible.
He was so good.
And
then the adult him is Ansel Elgort, who also was
we all
incredible.
know is great. Yep.
Yeah. So it was overall it was an R for me. I would say if it's in a theater near you, go see it.
Yep.
Right now.
Don't wait.
Don't waste
I don't know how. Yeah. It's an R for me. It's an R for me too, dog. Yeah.
Okay, Randy Jackson.
No, it is so. Yeah, it is so an R. one thing that Ansel says in it, without giving anything away, he says it in the trailer. And yeah, everything is before the bombing and after the bombing. And
the painting
is in between. And yeah, the painting kind of centers this whole...
you like kind of are like the whole like first like the first 3/4 you're kind of like, okay, but where is this painting coming to play? And then like the last bit you're like, oh my gosh, like
why is this called the Goldfinch?
You find out.
It's a roller coaster of emotions.
I do have to tell you that if you are listening to us say this and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting, like I'm gonna look at the trailer gives you enough stuff in it where you're like, that looks interesting, I want to see it, but it also makes you think that other things are going to happen that don't happen. It's tricky trailer, which I like.
Yeah. You think this person's going to be like this when they're not, and...
You think, like, maybe this is going to happen, and it doesn't, like... So, it gives you pieces, but it kind of, like, plays into, like... It wants you to kind of have an idea, but it doesn't want you to have any idea at the same time.
And I have a feeling I'm going to say this a lot at this podcast. This is the reason we have AMC stubs. And this is the reason...
Yeah, because we probably would have never gone to this.
Yeah, if a trailer looks good, if you look at a trailer and you're like, I want to see this, like, go and see it. Go and try it out. Don't let Rotten Tomatoes, don't let Metacritic, don't let IMDb... You probably
saw us post last night after the movie, because after we got out, both of us were just so, like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, like, somber maybe is the word I'm looking for. We just were both so like holy crap, like what did we just, like, that was just like, you just feel heavy afterwards, just because it was just one of those that you're like, wow, like and we were talking about it and David looks it up and Rotten Tomatoes bashed the crap out of it. And both of us were like, that is outrageous.
And I wasn't gonna look at any of the reviews because I made my mind up, because
we don't look at reviews anymore before we go to a movie, and we advise that you guys do the same.
Yeah,
because you don't want to pre-form an idea, because then you're gonna go in with that idea, and it's gonna affect how you view the movie. And go in open-minded. Yeah,
and I don't want also like movies that maybe we bash or anything. Like, I don't want that to also to hinder your interest. Yeah. I mean, if it's something, because. I mean, there's been so many cases where, I mean, both sides of the spectrum, that it's been wrong.
Exactly. Sometimes Rotten Tomatoes absolutely loves a movie, and I'm like, yeah, it was okay. Yeah, like, and then sometimes I am obsessed with movies, like The Goldfinch, and Rotten Tomatoes was like...
And the audience was on our side, because last time I checked, it was close to like 80%. I mean, I would give it more than that, but...
If you're someone that cries easy in movies, just be ready. Be prepared. Like, I told David,
bring some tissues with you.
Bring tissues. I did not expect that, so I was just bawling.
They should just have that on the bottom of the trailer right now.
Like, tissues required. Like, I told David the last time I cried that hard in a movie was when I went to theaters and saw Les Mis. And, like, Les Mis is one of those movies that will always make me cry, so, like, I know that watching it. So, like, if you're just somebody that, like, knows that they're, like, a movie crier, like, this one's gonna do it, so just be prepared. But it's definitely worth seeing. Don't be like, I don't want to see a movie that's gonna make me cry. Yes, you do. Go see this.
Don't be afraid of how long it says it's going to be, because honestly...
I not once thought about how long this movie was.
Man, yeah, you don't think, like, man, this movie has been going on for a long time.
Like I said, you just want
to see how this is going to end.
Sometimes when you go to long movies, you know it's a long movie, you go and you like it, but sometimes you're kind of like, all right, like, it's been a while. Like, how are we going to wrap this up? You know, I not once ever thought that in this movie last night. So much happened that you're just like...
I mean,
my heavens.
I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I can also agree it was slower, and I wanted them to... I was telling, like, it was getting long.
Yeah, exactly. I not once even thought about it.
No.
It wasn't until we turned our phone back on, and I looked at David, and I said, oh my God, it's almost 10 o'clock. And we went in at 7. So, it is totally worth it. Definitely go. All the way. No contest. So, with that being said, next week's podcast, we're going to see Ad Astra with Brad Pitt. So, we're thinking maybe touch on a little bit like sci-fi space, but we also want to touch on like movie etiquette stuff, just because neither of us are like huge sci-fi space people. So, like, we want to see this movie, so that's kind of like the driving force behind it. But we'll talk a little bit about sci-fi space, but really about movie etiquette, because as we've come to find, people have no movie etiquette, like, at all sometimes. No. We have a couple really good stories that you will hear next week about some of the rudest people that we have had the pleasure of sitting next to in movie theaters.
Holy cow.
So be prepared for that.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing 3 from Hell, Rob Zombie's, basically his third movie in the House of the Thousand Corpses and The Devil Rejects.
But it's only, get this, that Rob Zombie movie is only in theaters for 3 days, and it's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm going Monday night, so we'll see how that goes.
So you'll hear from him, but chances are that if you're in South Dakota or another rural state, this movie is not coming to you. It's a Fathom event
thing, so it wasn't even part of my AMC stuff, so I had to
pay for that one.
Pay for this. So hopefully it's worth the money. And also, give us suggestions for future episodes. If there's certain type of movie, if there's like a movie in general you want us to talk about, is there a theme you want us to talk about? Is there a
movie coming up you want us to go see?
Yeah, or if there's a movie that you have seen or you want to see and you want us to check it out.
If you don't want to waste your time and watch that movie, have us do it, and we'll tell you how it is.
Yes. Message us on our page.
Comment on the link. If you follow us on YouTube, you can comment on the YouTube.
Absolutely. If you have us on Snapchat.
If you also are like a personal friend or family member, text us. Like, that's fine.
Absolutely. Any way to get in contact with us. We also are thinking of making an Instagram page. So
yeah, it's a slow process, but we're getting there.
We are getting there.
So thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week. Yes.
I'm the Peanut Butter Falcon. No. Yeah.
Okay,
I want to put a quote from like a movie each week. I don't know. But we'll see how that goes. But seriously, thank you from Movie Addicts Anonymous.
Have a wonderful Sunday.
Bye-bye.